Okay, I believe we're ready to get started. So thank you again for joining us for today's document management webinar. We'll be covering a variety of topics regarding document management solutions that Worldview can offer. So what I'd like to do is run through a quick agenda here of what we'll cover. First, we'll discuss some of the additional functionality that our document management solutions can provide. We'll also discuss various points of automation in terms of business solutions that we offer to help provide greater efficiency within your daily tasks. And then we'll also run through a demo of the solution, including DocPop retrieval, the new Unity client, and then we'll also discuss workflow as one potential automation point that can enhance your business processes. To begin, I'd like to provide a little bit of background about the partners we work with in regard to our solutions. So Hyland is a long-standing partner of ours, and we utilize their OnBase platform as our back-end content management system. They are a leader in their industry, and the great thing about OnBase is it is scalable for any size of organization. It includes over 100 modules that you can incorporate within your customized solution to increase efficiency within your business. We currently work with partners in a variety of industries, and a few of their logos are listed here. And all of these partners of ours utilize the OnBase platform for their content management. So we have home, health, and hospice agencies, food-related businesses, as well as businesses who work with automobile dealerships. This is just a brief list of the partners we work with who are also customers of DMSI. We have a lot of experience in developing document management solutions for customers within the building materials industry and integrating those solutions with Agility. Speaking of Agility, I wanted to briefly cover some of the functionality that folks benefit from as a result of Worldview's direct integration with the Agility platform. Worldview and the solutions we offer, we are the only vendor who does have direct integration with Agility. And as I mentioned, we have several years of experience in terms of crafting solutions and developing different ways to pull specific information from Agility. So the first item here you may be familiar with, and that is our DocPop functionality. What that allows you to do is retrieve documents that are stored with Worldview directly through Agility, and there's no additional sign-on or different system necessary for that retrieval. We will cover a few examples of that here today. Additionally, Agility has the ability to produce several electronic documents, some of which we'll also cover today. These documents can be automatically stored with Worldview without any manual intervention or paper involvement whatsoever. And the most important point that I'd like to make is, again, our direct integration with Agility and its database. We have the ability to push data directly into Agility for your business needs through a variety of automated solutions, again, which we will cover some of later. But what we're also able to do is pull information that's stored within Agility and apply that to documents as necessary to, again, provide greater efficiency within your business processes. So as of right now, if I understand correctly, your solutions include the ability to store and retrieve PODs or delivery tickets, and so that may be done from one particular screen in Agility, the sales order entry screen. What I have here is a list of screens from which you are able to pull documents with a larger document management solution. A lot of these are set up by default, and some of these are set up on an ad hoc basis and customized based on your request. For example, the customer maintenance screen, a lot of our partners store human resources documents or credit documents, and they would like to be able to doc pop those from the customer maintenance screen, so we are able to set that up. As I mentioned just a minute ago, Agility produces several types of electronic documents. So as we see here, documents such as AP checks, AR invoices, purchase orders, even reports that are created within Agility, those can be sent automatically for storage with WorldView on a nightly basis. And of course, those documents can then be retrieved at a later date as necessary. As I move on, I also wanted to discuss a few points of automation that WorldView offers as well. We typically look at document management solutions, including storage and retrieval, as the first step in creating greater efficiency within your business processes. Once that solution is established, we really like to focus on additional phases, such as some listed here. I will be showing examples of workflow and reporting dashboards, but this list is just a brief example of the offerings that we can provide your organization to provide greater efficiency. So with that being said, I will go ahead and jump over to our demo environment here. Now this may look very familiar to you. So I've got the Agility platform up, and basically what I'd like to do is run through a quick example of DocPop, which you're probably familiar with, but show you some of the additional functionality that can be gained if you're looking to store additional documentation and link all of that documentation together for a given sales order. So for this example, let's say we have a customer call up and indicate that they've received an invoice for payment, but they have no record that the order has been delivered or signed for. So we ask them for their sales order ID number. We punch it up here on the sales order entry screen, and from there we can doc pop and view any document that has the sales order ID assigned to it as a keyword. So we see here 12546 is the transaction number, and it looks like we do indeed have a variety of documents, including the delivery ticket. So while we have that customer on the phone, in a matter of seconds, we can pull up the document that he's looking for and show that it indeed was signed for on 10/23/15. So at this point, we can not only provide that information, but then ask the customer, would you like a copy of this? And then we can either, of course, print that and mail it, or we can easily just right-click and email it to the customer as a PDF file. So that may be an experience you're familiar with today, and as you are aware, that really cuts down on the time it takes to sift through documentation, maybe in a file cabinet, to find what a customer may be requesting. So a few other elements within this DocPop screen that you may not be familiar with. You do have the ability to add notes. So if you wanted to, you can add a note to any document here. And so in this case, we'll say reviewed with customer. And then basically once you're done, that note will remain on the document, and you've got a little icon up here. So that note will remain on the document until it's deleted or removed. So anytime this document is retrieved in the future, that individual is going to see, hey, there's a note on here, I better review it and see what's going on. I do want to show one other example of a DocPop functionality which is not in place for your solution today, and this is where there's a large benefit when you are looking to store other documentation. You're not going to have to search through various areas to find different documents for each order, and this is an example of what I'm speaking to. So we're going to look up a voucher number, and so by looking up this voucher number from the AP lookup inquiry screen, we are going to find any invoices related to this voucher. So again, we press our DocPop button. And what we see here is that we've got an invoice assigned to this voucher. So then if necessary, we can compare and make sure that the amount that's listed on this invoice matches the amount that has been paid out or is associated with that voucher number. Now the great thing is obviously we see the vendor invoice is the only document that came up here. But what we can do is simply by double-clicking on the document, we perform what's called a cross-reference. So what that does is it's going to pull up a list of any other documents that are associated with that invoice. The reason that it didn't pull up these documents on that same list as the invoice is because, as we know, oftentimes these supporting documents are stored prior to that invoice number being created. So that invoice number is not present on these two documents because, again, that invoice number would not have been available when these were created. Instead, the way that we can cross-reference to these documents is because these documents and the invoice are linked together by the purchase order number. So if we want to look at the purchase order here, again, we can compare this to the invoice and make sure that everything looks accurate. But what we see here is we can view the keyword information that's stored on this document. We'll get into this in a little bit more detail later. However, what you can see here is that we've got a full PO transaction number, and it looks like we have a partial PO transaction number that are stored as keywords. So these keywords would also exist on that invoice, again, which is how these documents are linked across a sales order and how we can perform that cross-reference by double-clicking on the invoice itself. So what I'd like to do now is jump into another section of the demo and provide a little bit of detail regarding some of the enhancements that have been developed by Hyland that have been of great benefit to our current customers and their document management solutions. So what you probably have today is the ability to DocPop those delivery tickets through Agility, but your organization also has their own web client where they can also perform searches as well through a URL. And those searches would be, if you were looking for all PODs or delivery tickets for a certain date range. What you see in front of you here is what is called the Unity client. And basically this is looking to be the replacement for that web client retrieval functionality. As opposed to where retrieval is the only functionality the web client has, this Unity client allows you to do multiple things, not only including retrieval, but also where we can index documents with keyword information. We can access our workflow if necessary, and we can review reporting dashboards to get an overall view of, for example, any outstanding invoices that are yet to be approved. And again, we'll walk through an example of each one of these. So as you're familiar with today, when those delivery tickets are scanned in, that barcode is read and the transaction number is automatically applied as a keyword to those delivery tickets. So then that value is what is utilized to retrieve those delivery tickets in the future. What we're also able to do, again, with that direct integration with Agility, is for any other document type, that data is entered into Agility. But let's say, for example, that you've got invoices that need to be scanned. So similar to delivery tickets, you've got documents that need to be scanned in. Well, we know there's not a barcode on vendor invoices, so basically what would take place is you would have these batches of documents that are scanned into the system. And so like right here, we have a batch of AP vendor invoices, looks like 3 of them, that we need to index or add keywords to, so then we can retrieve those documents later on by typing in any one of these values within an Agility screen. So again, This information typically that's on these invoices, we know that there's somebody who enters that data into Agility up front. So then again, we have that integration where we can go pull that data for this indexing process. So the AP user who would be doing this indexing, they would enter a primary keyword value, which in this case is the invoice number, and they would see right here the invoice number is 4330. And once they hit tab, all of the other keyword information floods in automatically. And that is because we have that direct integration with Agility that can pull that information in near real time. So at this point, these keywords, which are fully customizable, those are linked to this document, and so this document can be retrieved by any of these keywords in the future. So your users would perform the same process for any of these documents that need to be indexed, and it is obviously very quick. So we can type in the invoice number, it pulls back the information, and then we can move on to other batches or other processes during our day that maybe are a little more important. So to provide a little bit more insight into the solutions that we can offer, one of the most common is workflow. And when we speak to workflow, one of the most popular workflows we produce are AP approval workflows. So as we see here, we have life cycles to handle inventory invoice approvals and expense invoice approvals. Workflows can be developed for any process that you're looking to create greater efficiency within inside your business. However, we've got a team of architects who build these workflows and customize these workflows, and AP approval workflows certainly are the most popular one that we produce today. So to give you some insight, we just saw how the indexing process works. So basically what we could do at that point is once those documents are indexed, they can be sent to this workflow. So those were AP vendor invoices. They would be then routed to this workflow where the assigned buyer would then approve those invoices. For example, we've got an invoice here, and me as the buyer, I am going to review this and determine whether or not it can be approved. The great thing about workflow is you do not have to go to another system to review any sort of supporting documentation. There will always be a work folder associated with each invoice, and it will have the purchase order and receiving document associated. So when we are reviewing this invoice, we can easily pull up the purchase order and receiving document side by side with the invoice. So in this situation, if we're reviewing the inventory invoice and we see that it matches the purchase order, and obviously we've got a receiving document, so the product's been received, we have a variety of actions that we can take on the invoice. Now in this case, we would simply want to approve this invoice. So we click our task here, and that invoice would then move on. The workflow would reach out to Agility and ask for a voucher number to be created. And then at that point, the invoice itself is sent for storage with WorldView. And then we notify Agility that this invoice needs to be paid. And then at that point, a check is cut. To provide you a little more detail on what can be performed within this workflow, I'm going to jump over to an example of expense invoices. So we know most of these may need to be reviewed by a branch manager or other higher level individual. And oftentimes we need to make sure that the amounts on these expense invoices are being routed to the proper GL accounts. With this workflow, and we've got an invoice here, for example, every invoice expense invoice will have a coding form that's associated with it. So again, if we pull up side by side, we can not only review the invoice itself, but also make sure that the GL coding information is correct as well. So what we see here, as the branch manager who needs to approve these invoices, we see that there's already a GL account that's been automatically assigned for this vendor. That's, again, the great thing about our integration with Agility is if you've got a vendor record and you have specific individuals assigned to approve invoices for that vendor, or you have default or if you have default GL account set up for that vendor, we can pull that information automatically through the workflow. So in this case, GL account 1001 assets is the default GL account in Agility for PhoneShack. So typically, we know that there may not need to be any other review that needs to be completed for this invoice. We can see that it's assigned appropriately to assets and move it on for payment. Now, the nice thing about this GL coding form, if you do have some unique invoices where, let's say, the amount needs to be split among multiple GLs, on this form, you can add as many GL accounts as you want and split those amounts accordingly. And then, of course, all of this data, once you're done, is saved as keyword information on this invoice. So now at this point, we say, okay, well, the GL coding's correct. This can be approved. What we would do is simply approve the invoice right up top. And again, the workflow is going to reach out to Agility and say, please provide me with a voucher number. It's going to assign that voucher number to this invoice, again, as a keyword. And then the invoice itself will be sent for storage with WorldView. And then all of that data, keyword data on the invoice, including that GL information, is then sent to Agility. The Agility record is updated for this invoice, and then that check is cut for payment. So there's a few other options here, and again, a lot of these are fully customizable, but just some standard options that we've come across in working with a lot of our partners. Let's say for some reason you have an expense invoice and something doesn't look right, so you can't approve it. But you need someone from the AP team to look into the discrepancy and get that figured out. Basically, what we can do at that point is you would have the ability to assign this invoice as an exception. So let's say you had spoken previously with your contact at PhoneShack and they said, I'll give you a 5% discount on this order. And so you're looking at this invoice and you realize, oh, I don't see any discount on this order. What you can do at this point is mark it as an exception, and you would add a note just saying, please review this invoice as it should include a discount. And then once you save that note, this invoice automatically routes to an exceptions queue. So then whoever on your AP team is in charge of this exceptions queue, they're able to pull that up, as we're doing now, and we see that there is a note attached to this invoice. So what we can do is click on it and find out exactly what we need to do to resolve this issue and make sure this invoice gets paid. So then once we make sure that discount's applied, again, we can move it on, the payment can be made, and the invoice can be sent to WorldView for storage. So those are just a few examples of our most popular type of workflow. We can create different life cycles for inventory and expense invoices within the same workflow for approval within your organization. One more item I'd like to show you is related to that specific workflow we just saw. And this is a new offering that we're starting to develop and roll out for our DMSI partners. And this is what we call a reporting dashboard. So this reporting dashboard is really a high-level overview of everything that's taking place in a workflow at that given moment. So this is real-time information. So what we see here, we have 4 different panes, and these are fully customizable to include any information you want from the workflow. So in this case, we see that we've got a complete list of all invoices that are pending, whether they're expense, whether they're inventory. It's a full list. You can sort this list by alphabetical, numerical. You can filter the list by any of these factors. So if we wanted to only say see invoices, let's say for Phone Shack, you can do that and then clear it back out when you're done. The really nice tool here is that you can have a breakdown of what is assigned in each workflow queue. So again, if you are the overall manager of the workflow and you want to see, okay, who has how many invoices or what those invoices consist of, you can see here, for example, that the buyer approval queue has 5 invoices that are awaiting approval. If you click on that segment, all of the other panes are going to shift and show data related specifically to the invoices within that queue. So what we see is we have a total of $7,400 that's waiting to be approved within that buyer approval queue. Here are the 5 associated invoices, and here's a breakdown of the vendors to whom those invoices are associated. You can always clear all the filters at any time and look at various queues if you'd like to. But again, all of this information or whatever you would want to see on the reporting dashboard is fully customizable based on the actions available within the workflow. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to join us for our document management webinar today. I certainly hope it's been beneficial in showing you what a larger document management solution can do for your company in terms of functionality, as well as some additional automated business solutions that we offer to help create greater efficiency within your organization. If you have any questions or want to learn more about our offerings, you can certainly contact me directly at this phone number on the screen, or you can also reach out to me via email as well. And I certainly appreciate you joining me today, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Have a great day.